Feeling that cost of living crunch? Labara are here to help.
All I want is great customer service and network, but for less.
That's why Labara gives you 15 gigabytes of 5G data and unlimited UK minutes and text for just £10 a month. Plus, no contract, change or cancel anytime.
An excellent customer service.
So what's stopping you joining the bill-busting revolution? Labara. More for less.
Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to the Summer British Diving Championships of 2023. Today feels a little bit like the calm before the storm. We have one event for you, or two joined into one event with the 10-metre synchro events. I'm Jack Haslam and I'll be here with you for the full weekend, and hopefully we will together enjoy some very exciting diving. So as I just mentioned, we have the men's 10-metre synchro and the women's 10-metre synchro to kick us off this afternoon. Just the one entry in the women's event and two guest entries in the male event. I'm sure a lot of you watching will be familiar with the format of the synchro events. However, just in case any of you aren't, I'll quickly run it through with you. The divers have to cover 5 dives as the females and 6 dives as the males. Each dive has to be in a different direction for the females, and then because the males have got an extra dive to do, they can choose their 6th direction. The first 2 dives will be the required dives. They have a maximum degree of difficulty of 2.0, so each diver can choose what dive they want, but no matter what difficulty it actually is, they will only get the 2.0 degree of difficulty. The following 4 dives will then be the optional dives, which again they can have their choice, and that's where we'll see the higher degree of difficulty dives and hopefully some bigger scores as well. Our judges are in place, as you can see there on your screen, just waiting for our divers to come out and parade for these straight finals. Over the weekend, we'll see a lot of preliminary events followed by the finals. The synchro events, however, do just go to a straight final. So this one, 6 dives, and then we'll have our rankings. The start list includes 2 Italian divers as our first pair and 2 Greek divers as our second pair in the men's event. And then the female event has its pair from Edinburgh, young divers Ellen Gillespie and Libby Duke. We'll just see the divers getting ready to parade out as we speak. So even though this is a British Nationals, we of course welcome any competitors from all over the world competing as guests. Great to have them over here. Our first divers are Riccardo Giovannini and Francesco Casalini from Italy. Our second divers are Athanasios Sirikos and Nikolaos Morvalis. And then our female event sees Ellen Gillespie and Libby Duke as the So as our male event has 6 dives each, they will kick us off for the event, and then in the last round it will just be the men alone. The girls won't finish off the round. You may notice that we have some familiar faces missing from this event, the male event. For example, Matty Lee and Noah Williams, who have just competed at the World Cup events out in China and Canada. They have been pre-selected for the events upcoming for the rest of the year, so I think they have chosen not to do this event just to save their bodies for the individual battle that we'll see over the weekend. There, as I mentioned, Athanasios and Nikolaos from Greece and Riccardo and Francesco from Italy. Again, similarly in the female event, you may have seen Andrea and Lois at the events out in China and Canada. They are not competing again, both pre-selected. I believe Andrea has also had some A-level exams this week and has only just got up to Sheffield, so another reason why they aren't competing. So we're just waiting for the event organisers to tell us we can kick off before our divers make that long walk up to the 10-metre board. Obviously, with only 3 people in this event, we may have a little bit of waiting time in between rounds just to give our divers time to go through their competition routines. Often, divers will have a set routine for their event, part of their process in between dives, maybe going to speak to their coach, get the coaching points, maybe doing some drills, especially in the synchro events. We'll do these drills together just to get themselves in sync before they get onto the end of the board. Depending on the length of event, sometimes divers like to listen to music just to centre themselves a bit, but obviously with only 3 divers in this event, or 3 teams in this event, should I say, won't be enough time for that one. So there you can see a long way up to the 10-metre, good little perspective of how high that board is. And we have our first divers up on the 10-metre board ready to go. So like I've previously mentioned, the first 2 dives will be relatively simple, starting off with an inward dive for our Italian pair. And then we will progress on to the harder dives in the later rounds. Really important on these early rounds to really show off technique, get those high execution marks. So Riccardo and Francesco, our first divers, inward dive piked from the 10-meter board, of course. Little handshake just to get themselves ready for the competition. Let's go, boys. So there we go from the boys, great start. As I mentioned, it's really important to show off the executions here. As you can see closer to us, the dive just goes through the water with hardly any splash. One of the best things about watching diving on the 10-meter boards, when you see those entries almost go through like bullets, make a rip sound as they hit the water. That's why we call it a rip entry. So next up, we have our Greek pair, Athanasios Sirikos and Nikolaos Marvelis. They're starting in their round again with an inward dive pike. Both beautiful entries there again through the water. Synchro maybe a little bit out on the way out of the pike shapes, but again we're going to see very nice high scores. 8.5s there from the synchro judges. I've always been really impressed by Libby and Ellen's rip entries, so hopefully they can show us some of the more of those today. Not using the highest degree of difficulty list, but when I've seen them compete in the past, I've always made sure the execution marks are relatively high. And very nice synchro there, both jump up nice and high off the board. It's quite important to, even though you're falling from 10 meters and you're only doing a back dive, you've got to attack that start to just get the control. Reach back over those toes, press those feet out, which the girls have done there. Great start from them. Obviously an event to get these guys into the competition takes a little bit of the pressure off for tomorrow. You kind of brush the cobwebs off before you start your individual events over the weekend.
Let me know when you're ready.
So we will see both the male pairs following the same list for the first 3 rounds, then we'll see a few discrepancies towards the end of the competition. Next up we have a reverse dive. So as I mentioned before the competition, each diver has to cover all of the directions. That's forward, back, reverse, inward and twist. In the individual events, of course, we would have the arm stand up there as well, but we don't have to do that in the synchro events. So this is the reverse direction for our Italian pair. Both very, very nice dives. Again, great rip entries. You can just see the little bit off in timing. Diver close to us, just hitting the water a little bit earlier than the one furthest away from the camera. So that's why we see slightly lower synchro marks there. It's just 6, 6, 6.5 to count. One nice thing about having back-to-back dives exactly the same is you can have a little bit of a comparison between the two. See what things are different and what things are similar. So here we go with the Greek pair. Reverse dive again. Much better in terms of timing of hitting the water. Slightly out on the distances from the board. Again, both very good entries. Good attack from the board. Just dive close to us, slightly further away from the board, which is why we're not going to see the 8.5s that we saw in the first round. But again, very steady diving. 91.2. I normally say the 100 mark is a mark of a really, really good synchro start for the first 2 rounds. So not far off that, 91 points, 8.8 points. Ellen and Libby doing the same dive again. Very nice from the girls there. Both bang in line with each other. A little bit left in those entries. just to get even higher execution marks, but the synchro there looked very nice to me. You see an 8 in there from the judges, so thankfully the judges agree with me. When you look at the scores, you will see there's some scores crossed out. If you aren't aware, the highest score and the lowest score gets taken off. So there's just 3 scores left in the middle for both the synchro and the execution. That's in the individual events. In the synchro events, it works slightly different. We get 5 scores overall. We get 3 from the synchro and 1 from each diver's individual dive, and then that gets divided into an average score and times by the degree of difficulty. So it's a little bit more complicated to work out the scores in the synchro. So onto the optional rounds. You get a jump up from 2.0 degree of difficulty to a 3.0 here. Forward 3.5 somersaults pike. Guys just measure their run-ups out. So now we'll hopefully see the competition hotten up a little bit. This is where bigger gaps can be made. A lot more risk in these harder dives. A very steady start from our Italian pair. Slightly different spin speed timing. Both landed very upright. So their individual scores or execution marks, should I say, from the judges, steady. And then again, synchro marks 7.5, 7 to count, as I just mentioned. The top and bottom individual marks gets taken off. And same for the synchro. Same dive from our Greek pair. Very nice there from the boys. I think we'll see slightly higher scores than the Italian pair, just maybe opening up a gap there. Both excellent entries through the water. Similar to the reverse dive, we have a slight difference in distance from the board, which is why we don't see even higher synchro marks, but like I said, very, very nice. Lowest score there from the judges, 7.5. Always a good sign of a great dive. So Ellen and Libby have opted to go with a simpler inward option, the inward 1.5 somersaults pike. Hopefully that camera gives you a little bit of a perspective of how high up it is up there. Very nice again from the girls. Great synchro. Obviously training together up in Edinburgh always helps with synchro pairings. Train together a lot more. Make sure your techniques are similar, which these two girls certainly are. So as I mentioned, have a little bit of a break, especially on the optional dives. Make sure our divers can get dry. You can see our rankings after 3 rounds there. So slight lead for our Greek pair there. 13 points. And then of course, Ellen and Libby in 3rd overall in the competition, but not competing against the boys. So they will be national champions regardless at the end of this event. So it looks like our Italian boys are ready for their 4th round dive. This one's an inward 3.5 somersaults tuck. So getting that DD up another 0.2 from the last round. We're going to see them stay at this degree of difficulty in the next round and then pump it up a little bit more to 3.3 in the last round as well. So getting some high degree of difficulty dives for the last few rounds. Gives them a chance to claw back that just under 13-point gap from the Greek pair. Very nice in the spin speed. You can see them both spinning around at exactly the same time. 1, 2, 3, just dive closer to us, just coming out a little bit late of his tuck shape, which is why you just see it sail over from vertical, throw up a little bit of splash. Unfortunately, that's why you see the 5, 4, and 5.5 from execution judges 4 to 6. Good thing about the execution judges are, despite there being 3, only 2 counts. So, well, 3 for each individual, only 2 count overall. So you can get away a little bit with a drop dive from one of the individuals if the other diver has hit their dive. Now back 2.5 somersaults pike. This one's a little bit easier on the degree of difficulty, 2.9. Again, very similar, just a slight drop over from vertical from the diver closest to us. The diver on the far side absolutely disappeared through the entry, so you see execution judge 3, 8.5, really like that. The synchro marks are now judged on an overall impression. In the past, they used to be judged purely on synchro, so effectively both divers could land flat on their bellies or their backs and get 10 synchro, but now it's an overall impression mark. Helen and Libby with their stepping up their degree of difficulty, forward 2.5 somersaults with 1 twist. They opt to do the twist first before the somersaults, which you usually see on the platforms. On the springboards, you may see the divers start with the somersault and then flick out, do the twist later. That one that Ellen and Libby just did there, usually referred to as a full in, whereas if you do the twist on the way out, you might hear the divers refer to it as a slang term as full out. So that's round 4 done. And we'll see how the rankings have been affected by that one. So on to the 5th round then, the last for the females. Ellen and Libby are going to finish up with a forward 2.5 somersaults pike, so just dropping their degree of difficulty back down from that 2.9 we've just seen them do. Ricardo and Francesco going for their twisting dive, so they're back 2.5 somersaults with 1.5 twists. This one's a 3.2. Back in the day, used to be a 3.4 this, and the organisers decided to change some degree of difficulties around. This one got penalised a little bit, so now just the 3.2. Probably a fairer reflection of how difficult the dive is in comparison to some of the other dives that the divers do. So we've seen a forward twisting option from our girls. This time we'll see a back twisting option from our Italian pair. Very nice dive from them. That might help claw some ground back. Very nice execution marks there, and synchro marks. Overall 72 points, very good score. 275 points so far. See how that compares with our Greek pair, who are doing the same degree of difficulty dive at 3.2. They're doing it in with 3.5 though. We saw this from the Italian pair in the last round. Currently our leaders. Bit of pressure on them now though. Ooh, and that will be interesting. Definitely not the execution of the last dive from our Italians. Just slightly short of vertical. Both of the divers. So we don't see massive drops in scores. But that 4 from execution, judge 4 will take a hit to the scores. And our last dive for Ellen and Libby. Finishing up with a forward 2.5 somersault pike. We saw the boys attack the forward dives with a run up. Girls opt to go for a standing start. Just the 2.5 rotations, so they don't need that extra speed off the takeoff. Very, very nice dive for the girls though. Beautiful synchro. Both flat chest on their legs in that pike shape. Come out, have a little look at the water, and very clean entry as well. Very nice dive to finish up the competition from the girls. 238.35 to finish up. Hopefully that can help settle the nerves for them for the rest of the weekend. You can see Coach Jenny Leeming. So we have 2 more dives left. The last round, just the boys this time. We see the biggest dive of the event, the back 3.5 somersaults tuck. That's first up for the Italians. And then we will see our Greek pair finish up with a back twisting dive that we saw in the last round from the Italians. So all to play for. 20-point swing in the last round. To the Greek pair being in the lead after 4 dives. We saw our Italians nail their back twisting dive, 72 points. Our Greek pair just the 50 points on their last round dive, but they do have a good opportunity. Back twisting dive is normally quite a steady dive for a lot of these divers, whereas the back 3.5 can be a little bit more risky. Just have that extra 0.1 degree of difficulty, of course. So if they do execute it well, it'll be hard to catch. The whistle's gone from our referee. Again, a little fist bump. Very important when you're doing a synchro competition that you and your partner respect each other's routines. People might act differently in competitions. These guys look like they've got very similar routines. Back 3.5, here we go. Oh, and that's where I said the extra risk. A lot of rotations there. Both just kicked their feet up too high out of their spin. Made it quite easily. Just needed to kick their feet out a little bit earlier. Unfortunately, dropping down to a 40.59 dive. So that last round dive of the back twist dragged them back up the scoreboard, but unfortunately leaves a massive gap for the Greek pair, Athanasios and Nikolaos. Back 2.5 somersaults with 1.5 twists. And that will definitely be enough to take the win for our Greek pair. Very, very nicely executed dive. Both disappearing through the water. See the little slow motion synchro, pretty good as well. That great sound as they hit the water. So great finish up for the boys. They got 72.96 as well on that dive. So just pipped the Italian pair's score. Total 338.28. Coach congratulating them. Or telling them off, depends how you look at it. He's giving them their coaching points. So hopefully we will get the final standings up for you on the screen. Like I said, today's events feel a little bit like a calm before a storm. Very quiet events, whereas tomorrow will be a lot busier. We have the women's 1 metre springboard and the men's 3 metre springboard. I might be a little bit biased, of course, with the 3 metre being my former event. Well, that is definitely one of my favourites to watch. A very competitive event as well. Unfortunately, we won't have Jack Law competing as he is out with an injury currently. He's resting up, so he's ready for the rest of the season. But I am hopeful to say that he will be joining us in the studio and having a co-commentator for me to help me along with the day. So hopefully you can tune in and hear us two commentate on the day's proceedings tomorrow. For now, we will try and get those final rankings up on the screen. And then, of course, we'll have the medal parade for the day. Mentioned the calm before the storm tomorrow. The male event has over 30 divers in it, so it's going to be a busy morning in the prelim. And it's going to be a real scrap to get into those final positions. There we go. Oh, not quite, nearly. We've got the rankings, but without any scores. We'll try again. And there you go. You can get that perspective of how high that board is right now from that camera angle.
And our winners from Greece, Athanasios Sirikos and Nicholas Morales, 338.28. If they can make their way to the parade assembly area, and we will get the medal presentation underway. And I don't think I need to announce the results 35. Ladies and gentlemen, the victory ceremony for the women's 10-meter synchro.
We didn't quite manage to get the scores up for you on the screen, but we do have the medal ceremony now. So if you haven't already been aware of the results, in the male event, in second place was our Italian pair of Riccardo Giovannini and Francesco Casalini. And our winners were our Greek pair of Athanasios Sirikos and Nikolaos Molvalis. And then, of course, I'm sure you can guess the winners of our female event. Just Ellen and Libby competing today. Well done to the girls. A little bit of a shame that haven't got more divers in this event. I know we've got a few junior divers that could also be competing. The likes of Maisie Bond, Anna Newbrook, Juliet John, I think they're going to have a synchro pair between them. Robin and Emily Martin, of course, competed in this event in the winter, but Emily decided to hang up her costume in the last few months, so a little bit of a loss to the diving world, unfortunately, losing Emily, but we wish her every success in whatever comes next for her. So hopefully we will see some more junior synchro teams coming up. Of course, this event this weekend is serving as a qualifier for the World Championships, the European Games and the Junior European Championships as well. So really important for all of our divers. There's a lot on the line this weekend. Obviously, with that comes the extra pressure. Sometimes it's hard for a junior diver to come into this senior event and flourish, but it's a really, really good learning curve if you can come here and adapt to the surroundings, and obviously people that you've seen diving for years and years that have competed on the world stage. Maybe intimidating, but if you can adapt to that, then you can definitely adapt when you go to these international competitions and compete against the rest of the world. So we've had our female medal ceremony. In a second we'll see our male ceremony too, and then we will wrap up for the day very short first day of events. And then this weekend, we'll see a lot more. Just to run you through the weekend, if you aren't aware of the timetable, tomorrow we will have the women's 1 metre and the men's 3 metre prelim in the morning. Obviously, in the afternoon, we will then have the final from each of those events, and we will also have the women's synchronised final. So that's the Friday. On Saturday, we will have the men's 1 metre springboard prelim and the women's platform prelim, followed by the final from each of their events and the men's 3 metre synchronised final. And then on the last day, of course, we will have the only events left, the men's platform and the women's 3 metre springboard. So a little bit of a shorter last day. Lots of excitement to come. We miss Matty Lee in the Winter Nationals on the 10 metre. He should be back competing on Sunday. One of our big name British divers, of course. And of course we will see some very familiar faces and hopefully some new faces that will impress us. So there are our boys. In second place, Riccardo Giovannini and Francesco Casalini. Our Italian pair, hopefully good experience for them to come over to the British Nationals. Probably not the competition that they would have wanted on the 10 metre synchro, but they will be back in the individual events, so we'll have a challenge there. And then our winners, Athanasios Sirikos and Nikolaos Molvilis. Some great diving there from the boys. So that concludes our medal ceremony for the men. Just getting their photos, and there we go. We'll be ready to sign off for the day. So there we have it. Our first events of the day, of the weekend should I say, concluded. Men's and women's 10 metre platform synchro events. We will be back tomorrow at 10 AM with the women's 1 metre prelim. So we'll be sure to see you in the morning. But for now, enjoy your evenings and hopefully we'll speak to you tomorrow.